Hello, welcome to part 2 of our Lidia Basics Guide. Reminder that this is game version 4.11. In this part, we're going to talk more about strategy and go over some basic game plan elements which will build on the essential moves list we already went over. Also, don't forget about all the resource links I mentioned in part 1. I've included those once again in the video description below. Real short, so let's get going. Lidia technically has 4 stances, but 2 are extensions so you can't go straight to them from neutral. It starts with cat foot 1 or CFO, which you can do as forward 3+4, and cat foot 2 or CFT, which is back 3+4. From either, press forward and you will go to another stance. Heaven and Earth or HAE comes from CFO, and Pouncing Tiger Stalking Wolf or TAW comes from CFT. Note that although you can try to work these in from neutral, her frames are so good on her 2 primary transition moves that your opponent is typically going to be stuck there with limited options. These situations are important to turn so that you have time to further transition to HAE or TAW. Moreover, many of her cat foot moves can be stepped unless you have heavy advantage. More on that in a few moments. Now, thankfully, her stances are not incredibly complicated, so we can run through their options pretty quickly. In CFO, CFO2 is your quickest option, a safe mid-check that launches on counter hit. This is your main option to deter mashers. CFO1 is a knockdown splatter, almost as fast as CFO2, +4 on block, and in the open, the pushback will reset you to neutral. CFO3 and CFO4 are considerably slower, but designed to help you keep up pressure if your opponent is turtled. CFO4 is a mid, a huge +8 on block, knockdown on hit, and gives a counter hit juggle. CFO3 is a high launcher, only -1 on block, and tracks to her weak side. CFO sadly doesn't have a low or a guard break, so you're normally going to lean on CFO1 and 2 to stop buttons and instead transition to HAE for mix-ups when your opponent turtles. HAE only has 3 moves, so again, fairly simple. HAE1 is a safe mid launcher, and HAE 1+2 is a knockdown splatting high that will guard break on block and give you a true +14 situation. HAE1 and 1+2 are the exact same speed, so this is your mix-up. If they don't duck against HAE 1+2, then you get the forward 1+2 string for free for 41 damage. Or you can get her rage drive, although the timing is very strict on that. If you're at the wall, instead do forward 2-4 for an easy splat. HAA2 is another low you can use, but it's a slower option, so there's not much to mix it with. Still, it's a high crushing power low, +4 on hit, and a counter hit launch. Also note that both HAE1 and 2 can be stepped both ways, and although HAE 1+2 tracks, it is of course a high. Now, CFO to Heaven and Earth is not particularly quick, so fast counter hit tools can stop all of that too. In other words, despite having powerful options, Heaven and Earth comes with a lot of inherent risk. CFT, on the other hand, has an actual mix-up, the low option being CFT4, a knockdown sweep that gives a free 4-4-3 after. It's the same move as the second hit of back 4-4, so the same risk is involved. CFT1 is the other side of the mixed coin, as it's the same speed, it's mid, and will knock down splat. On counter hit in the open, you also get a free forward 1+2. CFT3 is your main anti-mash option since it's your fastest CFT move and is a safe counter hit launcher, but it is a high. It also spins on normal hit for +11 or a splat if you're close enough to the wall. Now, going to TAW gives you similar options to Catfoot 1, but with a low thrown in. TAW1 is your slow but insanely powerful knockdown splatting mid, +6 on block. TAW4 is your knockdown low, only -12 on block, roughly the same speed as TAW1, gives a free 4-4-3 on hit and a launch on counter hit. TAW2 and TAW31 are both quicker, safe mid options. TAW2 will knock down splat on hit. TAW31 is a super chunky natural combo, massive +9 on hit, and the second hit will launch if it catches counter hit. But much like Heaven and Earth, note that most of these tools are steppable both ways, and you can get counter hit out of the transition, so there's still a lot of risk there with Pouncing Tiger. That being said, as we've mentioned a few times now, a lot of your cat foot moves can be stepped, so you want to focus on transitioning with plus frames. Luckily, these tools are few in number, so they're very easy to remember. For CFO, 442 is your main tool. It's stupidly safe at -2, has crazy range, and gives you a whopping +15 on hit, so no worries about your CFO moves getting stepped, except for CFO4 just because it's so slow. 442 itself is linear, but thanks to how crazy fast it is, just be patient and you can easily get it in there somewhere. And since 442 will only go to CFO on hit, you don't have to worry about committing to the stance, which is a lot less to think about. Also, don't forget that your rage drive is an option for CFO too, but since that's obviously a once around thing, it's not something that you can rely on all the time. Now for CFT, your go-to will be down forward 2, which as you'll recall is a safe, quick, rangy mid. Not quite as quick or safe as forward 4-2, but it's a much easier input, which is nice. It is linear as well, but if you do it after one of your pokes, like down forward 1-2, you're at such an advantage that it cannot be stepped. You can do this with forward 4-2 as well, by the way, it's just easier with a single directional input like down forward 2. And if down forward 2 catches counter hit, CFT 1 is free. And at plus 12 on hit, you again shouldn't have any tracking issues with your CFT moves afterwards. 1-2-2 is also an option for CFT, but since it's punishable on block, it's normally reserved as a punisher, albeit a very strong one. So yes, only 2 moves you have to remember, but they're incredibly good. If you want more non-stance options for approach, don't forget that you also have forward 4 and running 1 as well, which of course can work to set up both down forward 2 and forward 4-2 follow-ups. And then a quick final note on Heaven and Earth and Pouncing Tiger. Since the transitions open you up to counter hits and such, the most common application for these is actually from Oki, specifically if your opponent is committed to staying on the ground for a few moments. This gives you the time you need to fully transition to them. Similarly, it's common to see Lidia players try to use these as tech roll traps. For instance, 3-2 forward 4-2 is a common wall combo since your stance options are extremely powerful against wake up options. Keep this in mind if you really want to run offense from those 2 stances. Sometimes it's not always about the mix-up, and this is particularly true for Lidia. She has a lot of tools that leave her at large plus frames and offer you nice counter hit opportunities. Jabs are obvious, but moves like 2-4, down forward 1-2, down forward 3, down forward 4, forward 2, down 1, back 1-2, back 2-1, back 3-1, back 4, back 1+2, forward 4, and while standing 1-2 all leave you in great advantage on hit. On block, you have down 3-1, running 1, down forward 4 slide 4, and some of your stance moves like CFO 4. And the vast majority of the moves we listed on hit just now are also safe on block. These are important because not only do they address some of her tracking issues, like we've said before, down forward 2 is unsteppable at +6 for example, but they also set up her big time counter hit tools. For instance, down forward 3 is I-14, so it can't be beat by jabs once you hit +5, and counter hit down forward 3-4, forward 1+2 does almost 70 damage, so you're getting juggle damage from it. Her 4 string is of course a counter hit launcher. Quarter circle forward 2-2 back forward 1+2 is similar, but you'll need +7 for that to beat jabs. Down forward 2 we've mentioned a few times now, but recall that on counter hit you get a free CFT 1 for a nice chunk of damage. At the wall, tools like down forward 1-3 become really scary, and if you want to take less risk, don't forget that you have some safe NCC strings like back 2-3 and back 3-4. Back 3-4 is of course a natural combo, but on counter hit you're getting almost 40 damage. It's also worth mentioning again quickly that the strings she has that can be ducked recover fast, so you're not at nearly as much risk as some other characters. Down forward 1-2, down 3-1, back 3-4 quarter circle forward 1+2, and 3-2 are all well-known examples. Regardless, use your plus frames well and get that crazy damage. If they're unwilling to swing into anything, just chip away with down back 2 and the like. Your main low here is full crouch down forward 3. It's very unsafe but gives a knockdown for a free forward 3. As you might expect, if they stand, you'll launch them as well. At the wall, it gets even worse since you can instead do another full crouch down forward 3 and you're still crouching, which leads directly to another full crouch mix. And if they don't tech roll the second full crouch down forward 3 and back stand, while standing 2 or any other while standing move will hit. Note that a low get up kick does beat full crouch down forward 3 in this situation, so looping it can be tough. For mids, you have a full kit of while standing moves to choose from. While standing 4 is your safe I-11 check, although you can go risky and do while standing 4-2, which is a natural combo, safe on block but ends high. While standing 1-2 and while standing 1-4 are your I-13 options. Both are natural combos, but while standing 1-2 yields frames, whereas while standing 1-4 will knock down or splat. While standing 1-2 is safe on block but high, while standing 1-4 is unsafe but mid. While standing 3-2 is your I-14 option, mid mid but unsafe, does a little more than while standing 1-4, and will wall bounce. Then while standing 2 is your mid launcher, I-15, -12 on block. Given that while standing 2 is only -12, that's normally what you'll want to use for a risky read unless you're at the wall. While standing 4 and while standing 1 will be your safe mid checks, although both while standing 4-2 and while standing 1-2 are safe on block, so if your opponent is not ducking those, they become fairly good reward for minimal risk. Note that full crouch down 4-2 should be reserved for punishing since it's -14 on block, and aside from being I-12, it doesn't really have an advantage in these situations over your other while standing tools given that risk. Lastly, keep in mind that full crouch down 4-3 is considerably slower than all of your while standing options, so in order to properly mix it up, you will likely have to delay your while standing moves slightly to try to match the speed of full crouch down 4-3. Against strong defensive players, this is going to be tough and will open you up to counter hits. Just a fair warning. Lidia's grab game is weak, unfortunately, because she only has the normals and a single 1+2 break. A couple are notable though. 2+4 not only side switches on hit, but the Oki is nice. If they had backstand, forward 4-3 will launch, and if they get up kick, you can counter hit them with a lot of your other tools. Up forward 1+2 is nice in that it will wall splat for a ton of damage, so at the wall you can try mixing it in with 2+4 and see what happens. Again, it'll be hard to land them against strong defensive players, but the reward can be very good. This brings us to the end of part 2. Hopefully this discussion gets your creativity going and helps you get some wins. In part 3, we'll finish the guide off by going over quick referential items like combos and punishers, and then we'll end with a brief character summary. Watch for that here in the next couple of days. And with that, thank you for checking out this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe here on YouTube. Also be sure to turn on notifications if you'd like to get alerted as soon as a new vid is uploaded. I also try to stream whenever I can, so the link to Twitch is down in the video description below. You will find Twitter and Facebook links down there too. Lastly, special thanks to our 30 patrons, Tato, Apples, and Overhaul. That support means a lot. Patreon is definitely the best way to support your favorite content creators, and the more support the channel gets, the more content I can afford to do. Stay safe everyone, and we'll see you next time.